I know it sounds crazy, but yesterday, a lynx came to my porch and dropped her cub right in front of me. The little one wasn't moving. And that lynx, she didn't growl, didn't run. She just looked at me, crying. Not like a human, no? But there was something in her eyes, some kind of silent scream. I swear I felt it in my chest. I live way out in the woods, on the edge of the national forest, where the nearest neighbor is a half-hour drive away. My cabin is modest, 2 rooms, a workshop out back where I do some wood carving for a living. Ever since my daughter passed, I moved out here to be alone. Just me, the trees, and the quiet. That quiet saved me in some ways. But nothing prepared me for what happened yesterday. I was just finishing sanding a maple stool when I heard scratching at the door. It wasn't frantic, just persistent. I figured it was a raccoon or maybe that one-legged fox that limps around sometimes. I opened the door with a broom in hand, just in case. And there she was, a full-grown lynx. She looked worn, her fur matted, one ear torn. And in her mouth, hanging limply, was a tiny cub. I froze. She didn't move either, just slowly stepped forward and laid the cub down on my doormat like a gift, or an offering, or maybe a plea. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then she let out this low, rumbling whimper, like her whole body was asking me to do something. I knelt down, not even thinking. The cub was still warm, but barely. Its chest wasn't rising. I gently lifted it up and rushed inside. I could feel her eyes on my back. Not threatening, not angry, just desperate. Inside, I laid the cub on a towel and did what little I knew. I rubbed its sides, tried to stimulate breathing. I remembered some techniques from when my dog had pups years ago. I kept whispering, "Come on, little one, come on." For a full minute, there was nothing. And then a twitch. Barely there, but I saw it. A tiny gasp, then another. I turned to the door and she was still there, her face pressed against the screen. I opened it. She stepped in like she belonged there. Not a sound. She laid down beside the cub, her massive paw just barely touching its side. That night, I didn't sleep. I heated goat's milk I had for baking and used a tiny syringe to feed the cub every couple of hours. She watched everything. I named her the way you name storms you never forget. I started calling her Mara. And her cub, Bean. I don't know why. It just fit. By morning, Bean was breathing on his own. Weak, but alive. I set up a little area in the corner with blankets and an old heating pad. Mara never left his side. That afternoon, I called an old friend, Dr. Allen, a retired wildlife vet who now mostly grows tomatoes and reads detective novels. I hadn't spoken to him in years, not since the funeral. But he picked up after 2 rings. "John, you okay? I need your help," I said. "It's not for me. It's for a lynx." Silence. "You been drinking? Just get out here. Please." He showed up an hour later in his rusted green truck. Mara growled at first, but didn't move. Alan stepped in slowly, hands raised. When he saw the cub, his whole face changed. "This one was done for," he said. "But you pulled him back." He checked Bean's lungs, gave him some fluids, and handed me a bag of supplies. "Keep him warm. Feed him every 3 hours. And whatever you do, don't let him get chilled." The next 3 days were a blur. Feedings, cleaning, worry. Bean started to cry louder, started squirming more. Mara never left the cabin. She slept near the stove or beside me when I dozed off in the chair. I started talking to her like she understood. She did something odd on the second day. I was wiping down the table and looked over to find her standing by the window, staring out into the trees. She paced back and forth, then sat down and yowled softly, like she was calling out. I walked over and stood beside her, and for a moment, I wondered what she was thinking. Was she scared? Sad? Hoping for someone? That night, during another feeding, Bean bit down harder on the syringe. It made me laugh. He had strength now. Real strength. I looked at Mara and whispered, "He's coming back." On the 4th day, something changed. I woke up to find the door ajar. Mara was gone. My heart dropped. Bean was still there, curled up and warm, but I felt a weird emptiness. I waited all day. Nothing. Then, just as the sun started dipping behind the ridge, I heard it again. Scratching. She was back. But she wasn't alone. Behind her were 2 more lynxes. Adults. Maybe siblings, maybe part of her old group. They stood back as she stepped in. She sniffed Bean, then nudged him gently. I watched her look back at the others, then at me. I understood. It was time. I wrapped Bean in the blanket he'd been using and handed him to her. My hands were shaking. She took him, slow and careful, then paused. Her eyes met mine again. Thank you. That's what I felt. As clear as if she'd said it out loud. And then they were gone. It's been 2 weeks. Every morning, I step outside with a mug of coffee, just in case. I listen harder now. I watch the trees. Every rustle, every crack of a branch makes my heart jump. Not from fear, but hope. And this morning, they were there. Mara, Bean, and the other two. Sitting just past the tree line. Not moving, just watching. The light filtered through the leaves and hit them just right. And for a second, it felt like a painting. Unreal, but perfectly real at the same time. Watching, I raised my hand. She blinked once, turned, and melted into the woods. And I finally let myself cry. Not from pain, but something else. Something like peace. Maybe grace. Since that day, I've kept the blanket folded in the corner. I cleaned up the towels, put away the syringe, but I can't bring myself to get rid of that little blanket. Sometimes I sit beside it with my morning coffee, staring out the window, just in case. I even carved a small figure. A lynx with her cub, curled together. It sits on my mantle now. Not for sale. Not for anyone else. Just for me. For Mara. For Bean. That little cub didn't just survive. He brought something back with him. A heartbeat I didn't know I still had. And that, I think, is the part that feels truly incredible.